Hotepu everyone. This is His Royal Majesty King Ra Sumabathagbeami, the world's first openly African black gay king. And the role of a king is to protect and nourish his people. And today I do so by presenting a call, a challenge, and a reminder to my gay community and to the world that the world needs divine gay men. I was initiated in Nigeria, Africa, in the rainforests of a town called Oba Ile, and I was crowned a high priest, a king, and was called a Babalawo. My credentials and my throne come directly from the motherland. I was raised in North America. I went to school at Princeton and Columbia universities, founded 2 temples in the States, and taught thousands of people about African spirituality. So, as the first black gay king of this time, or these times, I am from a lineage of African kings called the correctors. We come very rarely to the earth. We are an elite group of kings that come very rarely, once every 11,000 years or so. One of us incarnates. Our job is to incarnate when the African and black people have truly lost their way. When we are in a very critical condition, when we have lost our sciences, lost our traditions, lost our spiritual way, a corrector incarnates and founds a new dynasty of kings. This is my role. This is my job. This is the task that God gave me to do, as expressed through the great oracle of Ifa, which, for the most wise of Africans, is the voice of God himself speaking to his earthly children. So I've come back to correct the problems in the calculations of our African sciences, of our African religions, of our African spirituality. And many heterosexual people don't like this fact. They don't like the fact that black, gay, and royal can combine in one sentence. And not only that, combine in such a manner as to correct what the heterosexuals have created as a spiritual or governmental structure. So my job was to heal the broken African spirituality, the parts of it that were broken. This is why I created the great Pa'ut, which I discuss in other videos on my channel. The great Pa'ut and the Zuhet. The biggest mistake done by the heterosexual spiritual and government leaders is to think that they can marginalize the great gay masters without damaging the African movement. This is a great and dangerous error, because the gay priests, the gay leaders, the gay kings are the gatekeepers. We keep the balance between the worlds. This is not a joke. This is not rhetoric. This is spiritual truth. We are the balance point, the fulcrum of the scale of Ma'at. The balance point that allows the scales of Ma'at to find their balance. Many heterosexual priests and Kemetic leaders and African leaders and such say man, woman, but they forget the fulcrum that's between the two. They forget Ma'at is not about duality, she's about a trinity. Left, right, and their source, which is the center. This is a great mistake that I have come to correct among my African leaders, the other kings of Africa, the queens of Africa, the Kemetic priests in America, the Orisha priests in America and around the world. I have come to remind you about the fulcrum, the center, the balance point. And those of you who are closed-minded to the reality of the scales of Ma'at, which are not a binary tool, but a triune trinity tool, I've come to correct you and to remind you, never destabilize the center. We gay people are the neutral charge. Hetero men embody more the electrical charge predominance. Hetero females embody more the magnetic charge predominance. But the neutral charge from whence the other two emerge are my peoples. And I will not allow heteros to bash my people, to harm them, to insult them, and to derange the center. So one fine day, and that day is today, the heteros must honor the center. It is the only way to bring Ma'at, order, back to our people. And by deriding gay people, you are harming the order of Ma'at itself. Many foolish heterosexual people talk about Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve, and we're not even Christian in my realm. So to bring a Christian argument to me is ridiculous. But if you do your homework and you spend the same amount of respectful time and research on the study of sexuality, both in nature and the universe, you will see we exist. We always have. We exist in nature. There are gay animals, gay behaviors, lesbian birds, gay penguins, gay lions. It exists. You don't have to like it. But who cares if you don't like it? It still is Ma'at, the truth. Even our creation story, the book of knowing the manifestations of Ra and of destroying Apap, the creator was Atum, a male who created without a woman. He masturbated, swallowed his semen, and from that created the universe. There was no female involved. Then there's the creation of male and female energies, Gebenut. That's second in the story. What's this creation by a single male all about? What's going on over there? These are questions the heterosexual community are too frightened to honestly and squarely look at. Because it reminds them of the neutral center. This text describes asexual reproduction in the universe. Most creatures on the planet create asexually, far more than the sexual creation. Species. So there's a whole sacred scriptural text of sex that's not between male and female, and it preceded male and female sex. This makes many heteros nervous because they have a secret Christian patriarchal thought process in their heads, but I am neither. I simply read the text and the facts. So I incarnated to correct you about your fallacy about sexuality and the fact that it is a spectrum. It goes from hyper hetero to hyper gay, bisexual, and heteroflexible. All those things are within the spectrum. It is not a dot, it is a spectrum. And I, as king of the gatekeepers of the gay Africans, will not allow heteros to continue their ignorance, which damages my kingdom and my people. So I correct you out of love for my people and love for you. You need us. The world needs the beauty and the balance that gay people bring it. So, before you open your mouth against my people, read a book. And if you can't read a book, watch a YouTube video or two on the latest scientific research on sexuality, homosexuality, genetic tags, and how you're born this way. Now, I speak to my gay community. We have a job to do. We have a divine mission, as all things in the universe do. Unfortunately, the Western corrupter, which idolizes lower brain behavior, wild behavior, love and hip hop, screaming and yelling, animalistic brain dominance, the lack of civility and African culture is being promoted, divinized, and made desirable, but it is vulgar and disgusting. It brings out the worst in us. So every gay person, every gay young boy these days, more or less wants to be famous, fabulous, ratchet, mean, sloppy, messy, Nini Leaks. This is not the way to go. This is not the way to go. We have a beautiful and sacred mission, which is to bring the gates back to balance. What are these gates? These gates are known as this image here, the zodiac wheel, which contains the chakras and the tree of life. The gates that we are meant to keep are the gates of the stars, the star rituals of the Africans. Now, the Kamau, the blacks of Egypt, were the greatest empire in the world, not just Africa, but on the planet, because of one master principle: astrology. Heaven. But for them, heaven wasn't some abstract fantasy. Heaven actually meant the stars above your head. Every temple in Egypt was aligned to some star. Every pyramid is aligned to some sacred spot or point in the sky. the geometry, the harmonics, the phi ratio, all of these things, the pi ratio, all of these things are based upon the zodiac. The zodiac is generated from the pi and the phi sequences. So the Kamal spent trillions of dollars on the pursuit of astrology. It is the mother science, the master science. And when the Africans lost the astrology, that was the beginning of our end. Because we come from Ra. The Kemetic scriptures say the Kamal themselves come from Ra, and the other Africans come from Haru. Both of those are solar concepts. Well, the sun is a star. So when you realize that you come from stars, Ra or Heru, and then you forget about stars, then you can't be who you are. I'm a master diviner. I've been highly trained in the oracles of Ifa, the oracles of the Yi Jing. I am highly skilled in the oracles by my profession, by my office. And I am telling you, after over 20 years of doing readings, nothing matches the Kemetic astrology for prediction. No Ifa oracle, great and mighty as it is truly a wonder and a mystery. But even the great oracle of Ifa is no match for the predictive powers of the sky. So I have repaired the sky, fixed the broken heavens, meaning repaired the calendars. The Kemetic calendars are back, and they're back in business. They are functioning, they are being ritualized, and they are doing their job. Nut, our sweet sky lady, is back. And now Geb can smile at her and be at peace, because Shu, the balance point, keeps them in order. So I speak to the gay community about your divine calling. You're not here to twirl around all day long, although twirling is fun at its time. You're not here to be cute and sloppy. You're here by the command of God Almighty to make sure the starlights of the heavens reflect well on earth. And we have not been doing our job. First, we were fired from our job by idiotic heterosexuals, myopic, small-minded heterosexuals who bashed us and locked us in dungeon-like closets. But no more. Those days are gone with the dinosaurs. I am back, and I'm letting you know, never again. So I call forth my gatekeepers, my sky watchers, my Unutu, the great sky watchers. I call you back to heaven, to your higher mind, not your sloppy animal mind of love and hip hop. You are more than that. You are greater than that. You have more dignity. And I call you back, those of you who are now mature enough, strong enough to rise up and not slither on your bellies like a worm to the ground. Not all gay people will heed this call. Some are destined to stay as worms in the dirt. As for you others who wish to become birds of flight and winged serpents, I speak to you. Take back your powers. Take back your mantle of heaven. It is time we form the great Astrology Guild of Sorcerers. It is time you pick up the sky. Again, you read the writings on the walls of heaven. It's time you learn the movements of the stars, which are the movements of your own mind, the movements of history itself. The age of Aquarius comes in about 280 years or so. Shown in the Dendro Zodiac here. Hard to see this figure here is Hapi, the Aquarius symbol, shown as the androgynous man god. Androgynous, neutral charge. The time of the gays are coming. I am the herald. I'm the first of my lineage. I am not the last, just the first. And a ferocious first at that. What God has given me, no man can take from me. And God has given me this task, this mighty charge, to heal the broken African skies and to wake the sky watchers back up. In about 280 years, the age of Hapi comes. What will happen then is the Nile will flow again. The Nile, meaning the Kemetic culture, will flow around the world, becoming a world religion. The gays will be pivotal to this process. In India, the word for Aquarius is kumbhaka. Kumbhaka, which is a kind of yoga breathing technique, where you inhale and exhale and you hold the breath a certain way. Meaning you must inhale the starry energies, digest them into your body, to yoga you, to connect you, making you androgynous. This is the time of the gays. Aquarius is a very highly astrology-oriented sign. And we must prepare ourselves for power, for domination, for leadership. As the masters of heaven, during the age of the fish, the age of Pisces, was the age of the European. In the age of in the age of Aries, the European began to rise. He came to full throttle in the age of the fish. But these fish, there are 3 fish in that area. The 2 fish of Pisces, and you look a little below, you'll see a whale called Cetus or Cetus, binding the fish of Africa to the sea monster Cetus, also called the Kraken. Neptune is, in our astrology, the ruler of Europe, because we called the north the drowned area. The north is the bottom to us, for the Nile flows from the south down north, not up north, but down north. So we view the north as the swamplands where creatures, strange creatures, are spawned. We call it the land of Cetus, the Kraken. And it was during the age of Pisces when the whale of Cetus, a set of very evil stars, it's the Kraken, who chained Andromeda, who is the black people, to a rock. That would be North America. So the terrorists from Europe, under the powers of the Kraken stars of Cetus, For Poseidon sent Cetus to chain Andromeda. Poseidon represents the mystical side of the European people, their religion. Their religion. Christianity was sent to enslave Africa, to chain us to that religion. And we got drowned in it. We're still drowning in it, forgetting our own African traditions. Andromeda's father was called Cepheus, who was an Ethiopian king. So clearly we're talking about Africa here, the enslavement of Africa during the age of Pisces. Then Perseus comes. You can barely see him here. It's this tiny little hawk atop this monkey and this donkey here who are kind of paralyzed or chained, it looks like, paralyzed. And there's a hawk above them. That hawk is Perseus. Perseus saved Andromeda on the winged horse Pegasus. Well, we all know that in African lore, horses belong to the sun kings, like Shango and Heru. So Perseus comes to save Andromeda and to slay the Kraken. This represents the blacks of North America, because this star here of Perseus is near the North Pole. It's near the polar stars. So North America, the blacks in particular, in North America are marked by the great sky science to liberate all black people around the world from the Kraken or the Christian religion, which binds the mind and the fight of the Africans against their oppressors. Perseus rode upon Pegasus, which is shown here as this. It's so hard to see in this image. It's very tiny, but there's a man here petting an animal, and the animal's kind of jumping or happy and gaiting. This animal is Pegasus. Pegasus is called the square of Pegasus in the sky. Pegasus is 4 stars. One called Skiat, or Shiat, which is a star that's dominant right now, meaning the Sphinx every spring equinox at sunrise sees this star in the Pegasus constellation, called Skiat or Shiat. And this star is a very intellectual star, meaning the North American blacks will start to wake up intellectually and start studying Africa. This began the great wave of Afrocentric scholarship that was driven by this star. The ancestors in that star began to influence their earthly children and to incarnate black people with immense intellectual capacity to create what's called the Afrocentric movement. Now, we may think it's just brothers and sisters who began writing books and researching. No, it was compelled by the gate of Shiat. The star gate compelled this to happen, releasing those ancestors into wombs. The John Henrik Clarks, the great scholars of Africa, writing in English, and the North American blacks picking this up. And this happened during the great Black Power movement in the 60s. Then the rappers of the 1980s became the second voice, the second wave of this educational process of waking up the Africans about who they are. It took the form of rap, a most powerful mystical force for us. In the 1960s, music was very inspirational, waking black people up, but COINTELPRO and the powers that be said this music is waking these black people up too fast. So it had a dip in the 70s to disco music and frivolous music, very apolitical music. Then in the 80s, NWA and the rap movement began, picking up from the 60s. But there were certain stars that went to sleep in the 70s and woke back up in the 80s, compelling rappers to teach. Through the stars of Pegasus, Pegasus began to use rappers to wake up the minds of people. The horse represents the Heru Shango types, the warriors. The wings of the horse represent the mental flights, how their minds are flying beyond their oppressed condition. You see, the rock that Andromeda was chained to was called the hood, the slave plantation, the slums, the rock, a very dangerous and craggy and unpleasant place to live. But Heru was born in the swamps, you see. Ast, his great mother, gave birth to him in the swamps, which is called the rock that chained Andromeda. And Lady Ast, the great mother, raised her son Heru in these swamps, in these hoods, in these slums, and said, "My son, you are oppressed by the evil one Set, the white people. But you are black, and I remind you of who you are." And the black women began to inspire their sons to fight more. Thus, we had the rise of a lot of black male leaders in the 60s, and before then, of course, during the slave times, and there were many leaders, women and men. Although Heru is male, there's a Heru in everyone, women included. And some of the most ferocious black leaders were women. So my point is, you see, I'm able to look at history from a gay king's eye, meaning a gatekeeper's eye. And I can predict what's going to be the trend. So then Heru saves the people. How did Perseus, Heru, save Andromeda? He first broke her chains to get her off that rock. Then he killed the Kraken. He broke the chains of Christianity. The chains correspond to the binding cord of Pisces, binding the black people's mind to Christianity, a religion that destroyed us. It was used to kill us and rape us and take our land, and to keep us docile and far from our roots. So now we have a new movement of this happening on YouTube. We have powerful YouTube sites like Sanitaire TV, which is going into the streets of Harlem, into the hood, into where the black people are, and liberating their minds, speaking truth to their minds, awakening them, following the legacy of the 60s power movement, the slave revolts, rappers, speaking truth to power. We have great scholars on YouTube now, like Brother Obadi, speaking the wings of Pegasus through YouTube. So the wings of Pegasus, the stars of Pegasus, live again. Nothing can stop these constellations from working through our people. And so I speak to all of my Black movement brothers and sisters. I've come to correct you. Gay people are not your enemy. Among the Dogon, we were honored and sacred. Among the Kamal, we were honored and sacred. Among many Native American cultures, we are honored and sacred. So stop looking at what the Christian mindset says and study other groups of color who actually embraced their gay community. Now, whether you embrace me or not is quite irrelevant to me. My work continues. For what God has given me, no man can undo. But I'm wise enough to know you are still my brothers. You're my straight brothers and my straight sisters. My mother was straight and my father was straight. How can I not like straight people unfairly? You will benefit greatly from the powers of my kingdom and my people, the great astrologers. I have the formulas of the calendars. I have fixed the sky and can predict how your movements are going to actually move. They're called movements. Well, what's moving? The stars are moving. What's moving the movement? The movement of the stars are moving the movements. So I come from a place of peace and cooperation. In Africa, I was crowned as my deity, Obatala, Osar, the peacemaker. I have come here to defend my people, my gay community, to protect them, and to raise up their self-esteem from the bashing and battery of small-minded, ignorant Black people. However, and notwithstanding, I am Osar. I am Obatala. And for those allies who are wise, we have to all join forces in the end, because we're all being attacked equally by the enemy. And through my YouTube channel, my level 1 agenda, phase 1 agenda, was to tell gay people who they are. They are great keepers, great divine souls, and to give them their job back. And to show the world there's another side to us. To remind gay people, don't make twirling around, having fun, and being frivolous your life's mission on earth, the great gift of life that God gave you, being wasted. No. You are more than that. You are greater than that. And to show the heterosexual community, you need us. You need the powers that we have. You will not do well without us, for we are the fulcrum to your yang and yin. We are the asexual reproduction mysteries to your sexual reproduction mystery. We are Atum to your Shu Tefnut. We are Atum to your Gebenut. Thank goodness for the great scripture to unite us. What's also interesting about the heterosexual worries, it's been proven rather conclusively scientifically that gays don't make more than 10, maybe 15% of any community on the earth at any age of time. We're a small group. We don't dominate numerically. So there will always be heterosexual people, plenty of them, making more babies. We are no concrete, physical, real threat to any heterosexual. So the fears are most illogical, most unscientific. But I've been watching the gay movement on YouTube. Unfortunately, that movement is becoming quite frivolous, so I made my channel as a counterpoint to the frivolity. We honor our drag queens, and now we must honor our true kings. Many gay men have a hard time believing they are powerful, they are kings, they are royal, that they are not second class. And that's my greatest message and deepest wish, is that young gay people, middle-aged, old gay people, whatever, seize through my throne their own dignity, their own pride. This is true African gay pride. I am proud to be black, proud to be African, and proud to be gay. So through my throne, see yourselves. My throne is but a message to you of what you really are. You are not second class. You are not marginal. You are the center. You are the fulcrum. You are the balance of the whole game. And heteros must learn to respect us. The sign of the destruction of African kingdoms is when they begin to harm their gay citizens. That's the beginning of the end, because the gates are shutting down. It was easy to see Malcolm X's execution and Martin Luther King's execution from the astrology. The sky made it very clear. They were great brothers. Sure, they had issues, but who does not? They were great and mighty souls on this earth. Had they had the gay astrologers, we could have predicted, both through our sky science and what's called our astrolocality science, the astrology of place on earth, the Geb astrology. Easily have seen, you're going to die in that location. Don't go there. Don't do it. We would have told the leaders when to time their meetings, time their rallies, to time it very well. Several years ago, India performed nuclear testing, and it shocked the world because no one knew about it until after the rockets went off. When a government official was asked, how did you keep this massive testing quiet? He said, our astrologers told us when to perform the test, so we would not be discovered until after the fact. You see, heteros must take care of children. It's a lot of work doing that. It's very, if you're doing it well, very time consuming. Gays, we take care of spirits. Those are our children, particularly the starry spirits. And if you time something wrong, you can't undo it. It must play itself out. Once you initiate an act at the wrong time, the spirits, the energies, the forces in that moment must play out. Now, we do use the oracles, the Ifa oracles, the great oracles of Africa, after the calculation of the chart to give us more information, more details. It is taught in the text of the destruction of mankind in Egypt, when Ra sent forth Sekhmet to destroy wicked humans, at the end of it, Ra left the world and left Tehuti, Awon, Khonsu as his spokesman on earth. That's a very important text to the African religious movement. It's saying that Ra, which is the sun or the astrologers, left and left the diviners, the Tehuti, to speak for Ra. But the key is they speak for Ra, meaning they have to speak according to what the chart is saying. You must use oracles to flesh out a few more details of an astrology reading. That's what it means. I have reunited Ra with Tehuti. The predictions of Ra, the word Re means to prophesize in Egyptian, to be a prophet, Re or Ra. That means to prophesy. So we could have easily saved Brother Malcolm, Brother Martin, easily. But I will not reveal these mysteries to the heterosexuals. They can call us for readings, but I will not reveal the technique or my science. Oh no. That's for men who love men only. But I'm more than happy to guide my warrior brothers and sisters. I don't want the brothers of Sonnet Terror TV, the great scholar Brother Obadi, Brother Samaj. I don't want any of these brothers to die, to be harmed. And they're smart. I'm not saying they can't take care of themselves. Of course they can. But if I can help, guide and protect them, I'm more than happy to do so. Because you are my brothers. My father was straight, my mother was straight. I like straight people who like me and who like us. So we have no time for these petty battles and wars. We're all being attacked so thoroughly that there's no time for trifles. I love all of my Kemetic community, my Ifa Orisha community. I was initiated and crowned in Africa by a heterosexual Babalao, Chief Afolabi Apega himself. He was very kind to me. He knew I was gay. We discussed it. But love is what compelled him. My very first reading in my life as a young boy was by the King of Oyotunji, His Royal Highness Adefunmi Osejimon I, a most wonderful man. I will never forget his kindness to me. I was but a young boy, fresh in my college years. I was a priest. Not a priest, I was working with a priest. I was no priest at the time. I was working with a priest in New York. And His Royal Majesty came to that particular temple in New York. He saw me. He turned to me very kindly. He said, I wish to read your head for you. And it was arranged. I went in, awestruck that I'm talking to a king. I bowed my head to the ground before him. He sat on a mat and pulled out his divination tools and began to ring Ifa. He looked at me and he said, you are the son of Obatala and Oshun. They crown your head, and you are meant to build temples for the gods of your people. They shall help you with this. And what God has given you, no man can take from you. Later, I went to Africa under the wings of Chief Baba Afolabi Pega, who made me king. These were both heterosexual men of great power, great influence, and great wisdom. They both knew of my sexuality, for I've never been in the closet. I was born gay. Believe me. Yet these brothers saw in me the truth. They saw a warrior. They saw a king. They saw a fighter for his people. And they saw a gay man. Because of their vast and deep wisdom, as deep as the oceans of Olokun, deep as the sea of Nun, they helped me. They guided me. They nourished me. They strengthened me. Do you think I will ever forget this kindness? Never, not in any lifetime. These are the two wisest males I have ever met in my entire life on planet Earth. Isn't it interesting? Two truly crowned priests of the gods of Africa blessed me, were kind to me and loving towards me. Those are true divine men, not trifling, petty minds. They knew that my mission would help the entire nation. They knew my mission was not marginal or secondary, but pivotal, as in a pivot or fulcrum. So I tell this story to the world to speak to the other heterosexual men. Not all heterosexual men are small-minded, trifling, and fools. The greatest among you are wise, truthful, and open-minded. So I'm going to live in the possibility that my Kemetic brothers and sisters on YouTube, around the world, etc., will be as wise and as profound as the king of Oyotunji, the founding king, His Most Royal Majesty, King Adefunme Osejiman I, and the world's most renowned Babalawo, going back to the 1300s, his lineage, traceable on paper, Baba Afolabi Pega, both of whom are in the spirit world, enthroned. I challenge the other brothers, in particular the men, to have the dignity and the depth of such greats as His Royal Majesty and as Baba Apega. It is best you ally with people like me, and we form friendships. We form civilized relations, diplomatic connections. Because the science of Nut awaits her children, her African children. And to you gay people listening to me, enough of the foolishness. Get back to raising your heads to the sky. You are the great astrologers of the planet Earth. No astrologers match the African astrologer. We wrote the book on astrology and the rituals which will protect our people. You are the great diviners, the great mystics, the great sky priests. Come back to your high, lofty calling. Fly off the ground of sloppiness and animal behavior back to the heights of peace, wisdom, and keeping your eyes on the lights of heaven. We will teach the Indian astrologers again the perfection of their own craft. We will teach the Olmec Mayan calendars the perfection of their own craft. We will correct the systems. I'm just the first corrector, the first of many to come. Our numbers shall increase at the age of Hapi, the androgynous man with breasts. More shall be born. Like me, I look forward to the day of the crown iterating and repeating through history. So, I have on the image here two gay young brothers. They are not in the best of neighborhoods. That would be the rock of Andromeda, the swamps of Asinheru. And the question is, when you look at these two brothers, what do you see? I see gatekeepers. I see kings. I see lords of the sky, masters of the heavens, keepers of the starry vault of lights. I see Ra walking with himself. I see power. I see kingdom, empire, and industry of the great sky counselors, where we counsel the great leaders of the world about their economic, military, and social plans. In India, a few years ago, astrology was made an actual science. It is now legal to use it in government, politics. It's part of the governmental structure. Those Indians were called Indus Kush. Kush is Ethiopia. Indus means like indigo, blue-black. They were the blue-black Indians of South India. The Dravidians, the Dalits. What they're doing is where it's going, making astrology once again a master science of kings. Every king in history had an astrologer. Didn't make a move without consulting heaven, the will of heaven. So I see two king priests here, two master sky watchers here, born from the slums, raised up to the heavens. I pray these brothers and what they symbolize wake up and climb the ladder of heaven to guide the world and keep the balance of Ma'at for all people. Long live the gatekeepers, the gay Africans. May we come back into the light, into our eyes, the lights of Ra, to save his people. Dwawend Hotepu.